Hello everyone and welcome to AWCI's webinar, What Keeps You Up at Night? My name is Tao Nguyen, AWCI's Education Program Manager. Before we start, a few housekeeping items. One, attendees should be on mute throughout the whole presentation. Should you have a question at any time during today's broadcast, please submit it using the question box in your GoToWebinar dashboard. We'll have a short Q&A session at the end of the presentation. A recording of this presentation and all handouts will be sent to all the registrants within the next couple of business days. At this time, I'd like to introduce our presenter, Chris Sanders. Chris is VP of Safety for Valley Interior Systems, where he manages environmental health and safety challenges the company faces, as well as risk and liability. He is also a retired combat veteran and a founding member and board member of TooToughToTalk.com, a mental health awareness nonprofit organization geared specifically for construction workers. It's an honor to have you with us. Welcome, Chris.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be able to do this recap. Looking forward to kind of going over what we discussed in the past at the AWCI conference. So thank you for everybody attending and listening in. Few things on this, like she was saying, if you have a question, there's a chat function in here I believe you can still use. But this is really kind of recapping a open session that we had in Boston at one of our events. And it was a panel that a lot of folks came in from all different aspects of the trade and just started talking about in regards to safety of what keeps you up at night. And we'll kind of jump right into some of the notes. A little bit about the roundtable. It was basically real interactive. We had whiteboards all around the table. We were talking to each other, open session, nothing super formal, so we can get really good ideas flowing. This is kind of where we started with. We wanted to talk a little bit about mental health. We wanted to talk about industrial athletes, long-term employee injury prevention, and then we kind of opened the floor. And every idea we had, we created a new whiteboard page and pasted it around, and we ended up with like 12 to 15 different whiteboard pages. So what I've done is kind of combine them into main topics and main ideas that we can share here. So the mental health was a big topic, a big chunk of the session. And the reason being is in significance of the topic, right? 5,500 construction deaths every year to suicide. In comparison, in our OSHA-related fatalities, being, falls from buildings or MEWPs or anything that happens on a job site or related to the job site, that's 3,400 deaths. And we had a really good discussion over why we have so much training on Hiltis and lasers and operating this piece of equipment and when to do fall protection and what kind to have. But how many times have you really sat through, up until the last year or so, a mental health topic, on a job site? So that was a really big eye-opener for a lot of people. The numbers, we are the second largest demographic in suicides in construction. We follow the EMTs and police. Military, we're actually a little bit higher than the military right now, which is, we were below the military, but construction has increased a little bit with recent numbers. And in the U.S., one suicide every 11 minutes. This is some older data. We're still waiting on a little bit of data to come out post-COVID, which I've been kind of researching that right now. We'll update in a future webinar or event, but we believe these numbers are going to go up due to COVID, the significance of that on people's mental health. And again, leading age group 34 to 52, which is another kind of eye-opener because that's a bulk of our workforce right now out in the field. So we started talking about resources. And again, this was interactive. This is what people are using in their companies right now. 988 is a fairly new resource that is a government resource similar to 911. You can call 988, get to a medical professional in your home area. So if you're in Texas, that's putting you in with somebody from Texas, same as, I'm from Ohio. Our demographics are different, our economics are different, our the way we were brought up might be a little bit different ways of dealing with things. So understanding somebody locally is a really big resource with that 988 that can relate to you. We talked about some people don't want to talk because it's awkward. So the 741 text number was brought up, and this number was something that we had a lot of discussion over, where the text can be taken the wrong way, but it gave people kind of that security blanket, if you will, that anonymity to where they can text and maybe release their feelings a little easier than they can put in words. And we talked about this might be a good way for a younger generation that is more tech savvy to have a resource. So AWCI Construction Dimension articles, they have some great articles. We have some coming up. Over the next few months, you'll see some more articles on the safety and wellness programs. Construction Alliance for Suicide Prevention. This is a great program. Them and the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, both nationally known resources. You can go to their websites, pull up pamphlets, flyers, what to look for, what to do. Really great resources for starting an action plan when it comes to mental health, or to go to somewhere to say, how do I discuss this? What are some ways that I can intervene and help this employee get through their situation? So we also asked, like, what are you specifically doing to help? What is, I work for Valley, so what is Valley doing? What is every company out there actually doing right now to increase mental health in the field? Obviously, our talk did go to suicidal event, but we also realized in that group that there's so much more that we can do to help reduce stress, so that one thing doesn't push somebody over the edge. We can lower the threshold by doing little things here and there to show people appreciation, to reduce that stress that they're under, whether it be at work or at home. But while they're at work, there's things we can do. One was stickers. It's amazing what a 12-cent sticker will do to just show appreciation. And there's one that we have that says, I care. And it's a sticker that just says that if you see this green sticker on somebody's hard hat with our company, you can know that person's willing to listen to you and help you get to a resource that you may need. Another one was coins. Some companies within the AWCI is handing out a really nice gold coin. OCP has a really nice gold coin for somebody that's above and beyond, doing their job. And then there's poker chips. People are handing out poker chips. Those are going a long ways to just say, hey, thank you for doing what you do. Trifold handouts, posters everywhere. Talked about all of that and where to get it. AWCI has some information, but you go into some of these suicide prevention national programs, and these resources are free. It's not anything that you have to pay for. You can just click download, print right out. And then we talked about EAPs. This is about a 15-minute discussion, truthfully. The EAPs have a lot of resources, and these are employer assistance programs for anybody not familiar with them. And what their goal is to help people get through situations, whether it be financially, mental health, could be legal situations. It could just be learning how to manage people or deal with situations. There's a lot of training, a lot of program within the EAP that's beneficial to the employer. but they're very underutilized. So it's a very controversial program in a way. Some people know that the resource is there, but it's hard to get people to use them. And nobody in that room had over a 10% usage, but everybody in that room agreed that if people would use it, it would help. So EAPs are definitely something to look into and see how you can get that usage out there. And then websites. I also work with tootoughtotalk.com. We are a nonprofit mental health in construction program. We pull in resources from all over the place. We make resources ourselves. We do training ourselves, site visits, and we put all this in one website because when you're going through something, the last thing you want to do is have to search for the stuff that you need, whether it be information, phone numbers, what's my insurance carrier. So we take all of that for our trades that work around us. We put it in one location where you click on it, you say, I'm an electrician in Northern Ohio, and it takes you to your insurance, your EAP, who do you have, who's your local contacts, who's local as far as mental health facilities. But these websites out here that gather all this information in one spot is really valuable to your employee. And there's plenty of other websites too. That's just a little plug for what we do. But insurance information readily available is huge. What does it cover? Some insurances cover mental health. Some have to be reimbursed. So understanding your trades, there was a lot of discussion on that, understanding what does our trades have, what do they have in their program, and what effect is that going to be on them, whether they go get help or not. Obviously, if there's no copayment or they get 2 free visits a year, they might be more apt to reach out for help and go get professional help. Identification who's willing to help another if needed, properly trained. I think we're going to talk about this here in just a little bit, but things like the mental health first aid and the vital cogs, there are some programs out there to properly train those who are trying to help. So we had some other ones, really talking about that industrial athlete. And what that really means is that a good relation to it is if you go out and watch a professional athlete go play football, they're playing football for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it may be, but they'll stretch for an hour or 2 hours before they go play. They'll go through a series of exercises to loosen their body, take care of their body before they go out on that field and play the game. And the industrial athlete, we're starting to look at them the same way we do professional athletes, is that first thing you do in the morning if you're a carpenter is you go out there and you grab a 110-pound sheet of drywall and you flip it around and you're reaching and stretching and going through a doorway, and you're not really looking at everything else that gets you to that point of attack, that point of putting work in place. So wellness programs was something we really talked about, of different programs in the background to make your workforce healthier, make your workforce more capable during the day. Even things that may have happened at home. We talked about things like diabetes and heart health. Providing simple blood sugar tests, could be something that, if the blood sugar is low, somebody's energy is low. If your energy is low, your production rates are low. So that the ROI on that, comes back into you multiple times over, of being able to say, hey, look, number one, my employees are healthy when they're hitting this time to work. Number two, I'm taking care of my employees, right? So I'm building a culture and I'm building a solid base in my company. We talked about ergonomic training, not so much what we do, but how we do it. These are very important to understand the process of putting work in place. We all focus on this on safety professionals, but sometimes that process is the key to having an injury or not having an injury, right? Understanding where we could get hurt, identify it, put some controls in place to limit it. Heat and cold awareness. Again, if you're cold, you're a little more apt to get hurt. If you're hot, you may be overheating to the point where you're not paying as much attention or don't have the strength that you may have had in a normal day. Mental health resources, of course, came up again. Stretch and flex, personal injury advice. So we use a program, we use athletic trainers within Valley that actually offer professional athletic trainers, but they offer a resource to the employees that, let's just say they were walking and mowing their yard and they twisted an ankle. They can come talk to them, and that really helps them get back to work faster, get back to their family duties faster, just helps them as a person. So personal injury could be a big one. So we continued with helping with the process. And here's where we kind of switch gears. And up until now, I was really kind of focused on health, mental health. And what we realized was our safety professionals in this meeting needed help as well. They were becoming overly stressed on trying to do all this properly without maximum amount of resources at their disposal. So we had some really good, probably another 15, 20 minutes worth of conversation. How do we take care of the people making changes, right? Change is always the hardest on those making those changes. So we realized one of the notes we put down was you can't fix everything. My team will tell you I think I can get into everything and I can fix everything, but I can't, and it's for my personality, that's really tough for me to accept. But there are things that I have to go, hey, that's a bigger mountain than I have right now. Let's tackle that tomorrow. Right now I can do steps 1, 2, and 3. Let's go ahead and knock them out and we'll start working on 4. But that's very hard for us sometimes to do. And that was talked about, it gets overwhelming. Trying to get them to professional resources. Again, talking about our safety folks and our leaders, making sure they have resources in front of them. Sometimes a leader might be predominantly on their own on these job sites, and they're making choices the best they can, but understanding that there needs to be something in front of them that they can just go to and, phone a friend. I call people, even competitors that are probably on this phone call, that, hey, I got a question, man. What do you guys do here? And we'll have a conversation over, Snappy Juniors or whatever it may be, and we'll have a good open conversation. Hey, this is what I seen. This is what I seen. This is what we do, and it's awesome because that safety community, doesn't have to be competitive. And it could be good professional resources. So make sure you're networking. So resources in a porta-john, you probably read this and thought, what is that? That's something I do. With Too Tough to Talk, we have what I call the porta-john sticker. It's a 4x6 sticker. It's a QR code. It takes them to the website. And I found that people use it because it's private and keeps them from writing on the porta-john. So I win twice, but gives them a little bit of information. So yeah, I mean, resources can be anywhere. Pre-task plan boards, make sure we got names, numbers, contacts. Open door policies were definitely brought in, not just saying you have one, but making sure you are available for those around you. QR codes. Direct to key contacts. We made a point to say with those QR codes to make sure they do not become negative or disciplinary when somebody's trying to point something out that something could be better, making sure those go to the right people so they're addressed in a positive way. And again, that direct access, it might be your safety manager or director or VP or CEO, however your company structures that, but making sure those go right to the top so that they can start digging in and hearing the voice of the employees. Compartmentalizing tasks. This one, we're basically talking about understanding what your role is. And even though there might be things outside your role that you really want to change or you really want to work on, you also have a responsibility for a certain scope within your job. So you have to really understand what your job is, and help everybody else, but understand that where your focus, your main focus needs to be. So sometimes we go out trying to help everything and we lose focus of our priority. And then it kind of came back here, you know, you're there to get the employee to a professional, not to solve the issue. And it kind of circled back to the mental health, again, what they put down, but it kind of applies to everything if you think about it, right? Your job is to be a resource for everybody, which I think we all are. We all try to be. We try to be professional and figure out issues and solve issues. There we go. All right, worker fatigue issues came up. Productivities, loss of productivity due to 10-hour workdays, manpower shortages, schedules. We had great conversations about how to get people trained early. That was a huge topic. There were some studies that came out on productivity, and Travis had some studies, and we can get those for you if anybody's interested. I'd be glad to connect you. But he offered some of the studies he had pulled down from the WWCCA and the NWCB. These productivity studies actually showed relationship between type of work hours, and productions. So it's kind of a cool way to scientifically, you know, justify some of the things that we all think we know. Using these studies to negotiate with the GCs and the clients on the schedule, making sure our folks are not becoming less productive or quality driven and safe. So obviously when we get fatigue, those all three are detrimental to a company's survival, right? If we're not productive, quality, and safe, you got to have the trifecta or it's not going to work. What would help you? These are things that people brought up that they would like to see the committee and AWCI and the camaraderie of the safety teams that were there kind of look for it. Mentorship matters training program, something that we've been talking about in the safety committee, looking at our leadership programs and other programs to kind of tie into that for safety and mentorship, making sure we are using like the AWCI leaders program. Also identify different stressors for different age groups. It's a very diverse workforce, so we have to look at multiple solutions to multiple problems. Group effort, taking the message to the job sites. And we had some conversation over how do we do that, right? How do we take the message out? You know, videos, toolbox talks, links, QR codes. Toolbox talks being least effective in the group was brought up that sometimes the toolbox talks are just ignored, but some of these folks like to see videos, you know, short snippets more often than long talks, right? I think we all agree with that. Anything more than 5-10 minutes, you kind of start losing them, no matter how good you are. Hopefully nobody's sleeping right now. I'll find out later. But you know, we want to get through how we give that information out as fast as we can, as effectively as we can, and quite honestly, it's not the same for everybody. A video is not as effective as a good speaker, to me. Generic template, they want to see that. To safety and health resources, I think. Well, I know that we've put some stuff out through the AWCI. They've had, and forgive me, I don't remember the exact title, but there was basically a safety best practices that came out last year. That was really good. I know our company uses it. Just a great, you know, kind of maybe 20 pages worth of just best practices. When doing this, think about these items. Lots of the members in there said they would use it. Maybe add vital cog to the last day of the show For those that are traveling, that last day of the show is a little specific, so maybe adding a vital cog or mental health first aid might grab some people into that show. Something we can talk about. Demographics on the size of the company that attend the shows. They wanted to see how big a company was there or how little of a company was there to kind of adjust or see what that dynamic is. Cal Byer was brought up. He's on the YouTube channel. And again, you can see Cal. I did see in the chat, Cal will be there in the leadership conference in Hollywood on Wednesday, the 25th. And he's going to present on the human and financial cost of substance misuse in the workplace. So that's awesome. I mean, like I said, very dynamic speaker, very passionate. You definitely don't want to miss that. Synthetic narcotics, fentanyls, and the various variations that are coming into the markets. Drug use did come up. We did talk about this quite at length, probably another 10 minutes or so. Our workforce obviously does get hurt. Sometimes opioids are prescribed a little too freely, a little too easily, or too much. They are very highly addictive, and we need to make sure that we are educating our employees on the use of opioids and meth. They did bring up, make sure you look at your policies to make sure everything's in there. Issues like fake urine. There was a legal issue one of the members brought up about not having that you can't use fake urine in the drug program, and termination lawyers got a hold of it. So make sure your policy is complete on that one. All right, we have got to the end of it. I will say this before we release it into a question and answer. These roundtables, if you've never been part of it, it's hard to recapture in a one-way conversation in the web. But if you are ever in one of the facilities or one of the conventions, like if you're going to Hollywood and they have a roundtable, they're very dynamic. You get all kinds of wisdom, all kinds of passion, experience, and what you can take out of there is way more than you'll ever go in with. Like I said, we filled up 12 boards. I had to summarize everything to get through in the allotted time, but it's a phenomenal environment, being with your peers, listening to the same issues and realizing that, I'm not the only one fighting that. Maybe somebody give me some advice to that. Maybe there are some resources out there. So I'll open it up to any questions and answers that you might have over the topics or what we could do to help you. Any, not even just questions and answers either. If you have anything you'd like to talk about on any of the subjects, I'd love to hear your point of view.
So Chris, there's a couple of questions here. So one person asked, if an employee will open to the company about his or her mental health illness, what's the liability of the company? Are they responsible or obligated to send him or her to the doctor and treatment?
So in the mental health, I mean, that is what we all worry about, is the liability of the mental health. But your Good Samaritan laws protect you very similar to CPR, first aid, AED. As long as you're acting in good faith to the employee, you are protected by Good Samaritan. You're not professional licensed practitioners, right? Now, with that being said, I mean, I think you need to have a good, solid policy. So what we've done, I can only share what we do with our company. We have to determine, in our training courses, we ask 3 questions. 1, have you thought about suicide? Have you thought about how you're going to do it? Do you have the means to do it? The first one gets the ideation, the talking about it. The second one, have they thought it through? And the third one, are they planning it, right? So those three questions get you to a point where they're potentially a danger to themselves or others. And this is a very long process to answer in one response here, but you need to have a program that determines whether they're, to the best of your ability, a danger to themselves or others. And to be honest, you're never going to know for sure. But if you stay consistent with your evaluation, that's the best thing for you to do to protect yourself from that liability. If somebody comes to you and says, I'm struggling, I don't know what to do, that's way different than I'm struggling, I have a pistol, I'm going to go home and do something. And you need to have a plan for each one of those, right? One might be an EAP, one might be 911. So I know that's not a direct answer. Are you liable? I'm not a lawyer. I can't answer that directly, but I would say if you're like us and you have a good policy, the liability would be negligible.
Thank you. Another question is that in group discussions of suicide, do you start with trigger warnings? What's something that you should start with
We
for that
do.
discussion? Yeah.
We absolutely do. So anytime I do, this is kind of a recap of talking, but anytime you really get into a discussion of what to look for, what could trigger people, you really want to stop and tell them. My second slide, my first slide says, hi, I'm Chris. My second slide says, it's okay not to be okay. And that's super important to make sure people understand they're safe, they're in a good area. If they're struggling, somebody will help them. I tell everybody, hey, we're all safety here, or these are the people that are safety. If you're struggling, step outside. Don't sit through this any more than you feel comfortable. One of us will be out to check on you and make sure everything's okay. But absolutely let everybody know that it could affect them.
Thank you. So in your last slide, there's a part about opioids and meth, and look at the policy, fake urine. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so there was some discussion towards the end of the panel about marijuana came up. Different states allow recreational marijuana, medical marijuana. Some allow no marijuana. So that came up. And then the meth, because there are so many synthetic drugs coming out on the market, if your policy only identifies certain derivatives of the synthetic, then you could be in a possibility where it's not clear legally whether it's an approved or a disallowed narcotic. So, for example, like fentanyl has multiple versions of fentanyl now. All these synthetics keep getting changed. And then the big one was, and I forget who it was, but somebody said they had come into the drug test facility and they had fake urine in the sock and used the fake urine on the test that came back hot and cold. And then they got a lawyer and they fought it and won because the policy didn't have that you couldn't use fake urine. I thought was a bit far, but just a heads up, they were giving everybody a lessons learned to make sure that fake urine is spelled out in your policy as not being able to be used.
So make sure just to read over your policy as well.
Correct.
Like.
Yeah, have it reviewed. Yeah, I mean, every state has a different kind of drug-free. Ohio here, we have a drug-free program that to be part of for prevailing wage work. So they have some great templates out there. Our lawyers take a look at it, but get somebody to take a look at it with you that understands your state's policies.
So you mentioned training and stretching your soft tissue injuries. Have you implemented any interior or organization that has been successful?
Yeah, so Valley, we use a company called ATS, Athletic Training Solutions. So we have one full-time, one part-time, and a triage service that we use through them. And their goal is to go out and work with employees on, ergonomics, how we do things. So they'll go out and do ergonomic assessments. They'll look at how they're lifting items, how they're reaching. They'll give them coaching moments of, hey, by working outside of your power zone, you increase the risk to an upper back injury. Try moving your lift a little closer, use this kind of material, get help with this kind of material, et cetera, and really reduce those high risk ergonomic side of the injuries. The other thing they do is our wellness side, and they go out and when they'll do glucose checks on site, they'll do blood pressure checks on site. When somebody's not doing well, they're actually certified in mental health as well. They have the mental health first aid. But these programs are critical for us into reducing, workers' time that they're not able to take care of their families. They're not able to mow the lawn. They're not able to come to work on full duty. By using a certified medical professional, we're able to keep a lot of that stuff from becoming something more severe by preemptively attacking it. And if the point of a sprain happens, we have a medical professional that can identify what's going on and make recommendations right there on spot.
Great. So there's a lot of resources out there. Where should one begin, and what type of training is there for safety professional for mental health?
So if you were looking for a training for mental health, I would first start with mental health first aid. It's very predominant. It's available through the health departments in almost every state. Again, those grants pay for that. It's a intro class is 2 hours, a full class is 8. Vital Cog is another one, Vital COG. That one is a great course as well. That's a little more hands-on interactive. So it makes you have those conversations and experience that. One of the things I do in my training session through Too Tough to Talk is I make people, I don't make them, I ask them to stand up and talk to people that they've never met before. And those 3 questions I asked, are you thinking of suicide? Do you have a way you would do it? And do you have the means to do so? I have them ask those questions to each other to experience how hard that is, so that they have that experience, right? We have to have some kind of training before we have to do it for real. So those are great trainings to get started. As far as websites, the suicide prevention, this week is National Suicide Prevention Week. You can Google search that right now and probably, SAMHSA and every major, I did it earlier and there was like 10 different websites that came up. Use them all. You go to the resource, pull the resources that work for you and your folks. All of our companies are different. So find whatever resources are on there that you say, these people that work for me, they might enjoy this. I have resources from every major suicide prevention system out there. SAMHSA and Suicide Prevention Coalition is another great one.
Yeah, so you follow AWCI online on any of our social media platform. We're also posting about suicide prevention this week as well. So there are tons of good resources out there.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah,
then,
a lot of links. You guys are putting great links on there too to get people right to those resources. So it makes it even easier that way.
Yes, it's important to get people the help they need. And then you talked about, different incentives or just reminders for people about giveaways, the coins, the 988 coins or hard hat stickers. What do you find work the best?
Right now, me personally, I think our coins are working the best. A poker chip, they're 65 cents, and they bring the biggest smile to somebody's face that I've ever seen. And if my team's on here, they would probably back me up on that. I just pulled down a bunch of pictures to share, and they're all smiling every time they get a coin. It's a genuine smile.
Wow.
And you know how some of us construction workers are. We don't like to smile. But that little chip, obviously the pizza parties are good, and shirts are good, and they love those too. But that little individual, like I see you moment, it makes a huge difference in a person's atmosphere. Their whole day is made. You may have made a career company person out of that just by some little action like that.
Yeah, it definitely kind of brings out, like, you see them as an individual, right, and their success.
Correct. Yeah, the folks want to work for people that care about them, and if you can single them out and just say, hey, I see you doing this. You're owning this. That's what we call it as an own it coin. You're owning this process. You're taking care of people. You're taking care of yourself. You're taking care of your partner, whatever it is. Like this is really cool. Here, thank you. It goes a long ways to somebody's mental health.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much. That's the end of our Q&A session. Again, if anyone needs help at this moment, if you need to talk to anyone, remember to dial 988. And if you need to text, it's 741-741. It's going to be on the slide deck that I'll send out in a couple of days. Well, I appreciate you sharing all this information with us, Chris. Thank you for being on. Thank you to all the attendees who joined us today. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks again.
Thank you. Have a great one.